number of websites to review a few newspapers as well. Looks like our newspaper industry is going through a lot of stress. Yeah, to print papers that are not being bought. You know, there's a change in the consumption behavior for news, and that tiny little device. Who would have thought that that mobile phone that was made popular a few years ago was going to make the use of paper so limited? You know, but a lot of people these days prefer to just go for news online.
On the other hand, though, Bernard, if there are fewer papers, that means that we are not going to be,
to be cutting down trees.
Yeah, the environment side, we are saving.
I hear you. So the papers must adjust and realign their production.
True.
You know, but some people still like the smell of paper.
Yeah,
I still like reading my good old book. You know, but things have changed. You know, so like let's start with what you have, and I'll go online as well.
Yeah, so I have Daybreak here, oral setup to uproot corruption. This is Mahama speaking. There's jubilation at the national security. We'll tell you why later. It comes to the photograph of Harriet Senna Siao Boateng. There's trouble at Prestia Sankofa gold mines. NDC youth want their MD out.
All right.
Security couples run to Tinubu to lobby Mahama for job retention. And coming up, Katie Hammond's master, quote unquote, in alleged forgery of document causing unlawful damage.
Let's deal with the Chronicle. It has a number of stories. Mahama snaps Bolga Adam Smith. His name still missing from list of ministers. This is the photo of Isaac Abdongo, who is MP for Bolga Tanga, and the president is seen writing on a piece of paper. Dreaded oral report ready.
Yes.
There is fire on the mountain. The president is handing over the oral report to AG Dominic Ayini. Also, Asuan Sikh Technical Institute lands under threat. And then somebody called Banda says Dauda is a hypocrite. NDC also left behind $7.8 million debt. This is in relation to the Hajj issues. Okay,
so the business analyst is big on the oral point. It says government said to retrieve over $20 billion of oral cash. This is Ablakwa revealing, and Ghana's cedi recorded mixed performance against the dollar last week. Government engages IMF 2025 budget. Mahama meets ENI CEO to discuss diversification plans. And the other one here is Mahama's 120-day social contract, 7 key achievements in just 1 month. Economy Times, Ghana's cocoa sector at risk of falling further. Comes with a photograph of the finance minister Kasia Lato Forsen. Interest rates remain stable during fortnight after BOG retains benchmark rate. And there are crucial negotiations over public and minimum wage for 2025 that has begun. So negotiations have begun. The New Republic says Adiano Apeke from frying pan to fire. Ghana gas staff devastated by new boss's appointment. Evidence points to latte as a plant by outgoing NPP executives.
Oh my God. A lot of
my word.
All right.
And then Jato terrorizes Amrahia residents. National security petition to investigate him. 2 SMEs chase missing 2 million Ghana cedis at Ghana Exim Bank. Oral stories here as well. Oral drops $21.19 billion bombshell. And final one, Daily Post commence immediate probe into oral project. Mahama orders Attorney General and Justice not endless trials. Kweku Azar speaks on dropped prosecutions, and government can't be wasting public's time and resources. Kwachi Ofosu justifies discontinuation of court cases, Bernard.
Let me take you online. If you go to citynewsroom.com, tax cuts, energy debt, and city stability dominate Ghana IMF talks. There's a photo of the finance minister. Also, Council of State elections to be held today. Keep an eye on this. Now, the president, spokesperson, minister for government communication has been speaking as well. He defends AG's decision to drop politically motivated cases. He also says shorten transitions to prevent post-election violence. A few other stories. Ghana Water Company Limited restores supply of water to Ho municipality. And COMAC demands independent audit of gold for oil loss. Meanwhile, MIF undergoes audit over financial irregularity claims against former CEO. And government to meet transport unions over fare hikes amid rising fuel prices. And then this cholera situation in the Futu. We are now told there are 17 new cholera cases in a Futu. All of these on citynewsroom.com. You go to ChannelOne, a few other stories coming up.
Yeah.
Oral is heavy here. Ifadate says oral will amount to nothing.
Okay.
This is in Krabi Ifadate, an MPP stalwart. In other stories, appointments committee, strict protocols needed to forestall vetting chaos. Dafia Mekpo speaking to the committee. Mahama deploys military engineers to build bridge in Esuako, or is it Esuko? Or Esuako. I need help here. And then Professor Enin to government says publicly expose those behind Sapeman stash. This is the gold and fake currency story with Dr. Kwesi and Professor Kwesi Enin being quoted. And now there's another interesting story here. Widow of J.B. Dankwa Edu condemns parliament's silence on her husband's murder almost 10 years after that dastardly act. And then Road Safety Authority to prosecute pedestrians who failed to use footbridges. Can you imagine?
Oh, okay.
They don't use the footbridges they fought for. If you go to...
prosecute them.
Why not? They should use the footbridge. If you go to my journal online, there's a very interesting quote from Shamima Muslim.
Okay.
MPP had 8 years to secure convictions. Why blame Mahama? All right, this is in relation to the AG's discontinuation of some cases. Meanwhile, as you read, Kweku Azan says justice does not mean endless trials. All right, a few other stories, all set for Council of State election, 522 to vote in 16 regions. So there's a small electoral college for the people who are aspiring to be head of or to be representatives of their regions.
I think there are 10 women contesting in all.
Yeah, there's a lot of different people aspiring. If you go to different websites, for example, if you go to Star FM, they're leading with Ablakwa saying Oral can retrieve $20 billion with 36 cases.
My God.
Those are fantastic figures. We'll deal with that shortly. Now, there's a troubling story for me. On the BBC, their Africa page has a very, very worrying story. And indeed, it was one of the lead stories in their news this morning. Why some Ghanaians are fighting in insurgency hit Burkina Faso.
Hey.
Bro, this story is really, really worrying. Yeah. Wow. Why some Ghanaians have... And they interviewed some who said they are fighting for money and all kinds of things. And there's a very, very big fear that if things are not managed well, some of that fighting could spill into the northern part of Ghana. We have to be very careful there. Now, I'm sure you have a few others. What is the Ghanaian Times saying?
Bernard, Ghanaian Times act on oral report. President directs AG. Government IMF commence meeting on policy direction. Budget 2025. Sign anti-LGBTQ plus bill into law. National Ramadan Conference urges government. FDA leads 7 African regulators to foster trust, accelerate access to medicines, and then government plans to legalize motorcycle operations.
We'll deal with that later this morning. I'll bring you 2 final ones here on Class FM. Mauli Semevo, veteran actor responding to treatment after suffering severe Friday night burn accident. Meanwhile, Kofi Adams meets GFA on stadium security. That's the Minister for Sports, hit the ground running. And then President Mahama says Ghana is no longer a safe haven for corruption as he issues a stern warning. So let's get into the first story.
Yes, Bernard, dreaded oral report ready. There is fire on the mountain.
All right.
Max Olufori says for the Chronicle that President John Dramani Mahama has received a report of the Operation Recover All Loot Oral Committee with a vow that state looters will not go unpunished. He stated that investigations would be conducted into the claims in the report of the Oral Committee and where applicable, legal actions would be initiated. So to some figures here, the Oral Initiative was set to gather information about suspected cases of state looting. The committee presented a total of 2,417 cases to the president. Now, the report is said to highlight alleged stolen state assets, including lands and bungalows. In terms of savings, in a brief remark before handing over the report to the president, the former chairman of Oral, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, mentioned that the government could recover as much as $21.19 billion from stolen state assets captured in the report. Now, Mr. Ablakwa explained that after reviewing 36 major cases and land-related loots, the committee has the potential to reclaim this substantial amount.
Meanwhile, the president has instructed Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine to immediately conduct investigations into the corruption cases presented to him by the Operation Recover All Loot Committee.
Yes.
I have promptly handed over the report to AG. a Minister of Justice, and I've given him firm instructions to commence immediate investigations into cases reported in here. Meanwhile, the oral committee has disclosed that it has so far received, as you read, 2,417 individuals. Now, let me give you another reaction here. Oral will amount to nothing.
In fact, that
Lawyer and former military man, private legal practitioner, former MP for Berekum, Captain retired in Krabia Ifadate, has asserted that the dealings of Oral will amount to nothing, questioning the existence of political will to prosecute persons found culpable. Now, in an interview with ChannelOne News, Ifadate noted that Ghana has an elaborate system of justice which consists of AG, the Criminal Investigative Department, and other public investigative agencies. Now, he questioned the existence of political will to prosecute public officials. And then he basically says it will end nowhere because in Ghana, we have a very elaborate system of justice, etc., etc. So we wait to see how this pans out. What's the second big story?
So the other thing people are still pushing is on the appointments thing.
All right.
Remember you asked Felix Kwache about Zaneto and Adongo.
Yes.
Now Adongo is still in the papers. Mahama snubs Bolga Adam Smith. Big question here. At the last count yesterday, President Mahama has appointed about 55 substantive ministers and deputies out of the 60 threshold, but Isaac Adongo, Member of Parliament for Bolgatanga Central, is yet to make the cut. He was very vocal in the last 8 years, particularly on the economy, consistently taking the Eswal Akufo-Addo government to the cleaners for what he describes as poor management of the economy. Isaac Adongo positioned himself well within the circle of economists who vehemently criticized the management of the economy. Well, the whole point here is that Adongo's name has not been mentioned yet.
Well, we are told that he may be the chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament, which some consider to be an important position as well.
Significant.
Speaking of the economy, tax cuts, energy debt, and city stability dominate Ghana IMF talks. So the three issues I mentioned are the issues dominating the government discussions with the International Monetary Fund. The ongoing 5-day engagement running from yesterday, February 10 to Friday, February 14 will be heavy on Ghana's economic outlook and policy direction for the 2025 budget. The government is set to scrap major revenue measures such as e-levy, betting tax, and COVID-19 levy in a bid to ease fiscal pressure and reduce reliance on imported goods. Now, leading the discussions is IMF Mission Chief Stefan Rode, who will assess the country's progress and work with government officials to refine fiscal policies. City Business News understands that the outcome of these talks could influence Ghana's policy direction and also influence the budget that is to be read in the first week of March. Keep an eye on the story. I'm back to you.
Yes, Bernard, government can't be wasting public's time and resources. Kwache Ofosu justifies discontinuation of court cases. Meanwhile, we understand that the Attorney General and Minister for Justice will engage the public and be telling us why he decided to drop some of the cases. So we're expecting all that to come up. But justice, not endless trials. Kweku Azar speaks on dropped prosecutions. That's also here, Daily Post. So let me bring you Kweku Azar's point. The renowned legal scholar and governance advocate Professor Stephen Kweku Asare, aka Kweku Azar, has weighed in on the recent decision to discontinue prosecutions involving 7 pro-NDC figures. Now, in a thought-provoking commentary, he challenges the discourse surrounding the cases, arguing that justice should not be confused with prolonged, inconclusive trials. Quote, each of these cases has been in the judicial system for at least 7 years. He pointed out, questioning whether prosecutions that drag on for nearly a decade without conviction serve the cause of justice, to which Felix Kwache Ofosu says that it's been a waste of the public's time and resources. So
it looks like Shamima Muslim, who is the deputy spokesperson for the president, agrees. She says 8 years was enough to prove your case. Shamima on dropped cases. So deputy presidential spokesperson has dismissed suggestions that the discontinuation of prosecutions against some pro-NDC members undermines President Mahama's commitment to fighting corruption. Now, I want to take you to something I know you're interested in.
Yes, please.
Transportation. Actually, back page of the Ghanaian Times. Government to legalize Okada business to address road congestion. This story is also on ChannelOne News. The Minister for Transportation, Joseph Ninkpe Bukari, has announced the start of processes to legalize the operations of commercial motorbike riders, commonly known as Okada, in the first quarter of the Mahama government. Now, during a visit to the head office of the DVLA, the minister stated that steps are being taken to amend existing laws to facilitate the successful implementation of the motorbike transport business.
Okay. We need to know the modalities that will come with, whether or not they are allowed into the central business district, or there are specific areas that they will be allowed to operate, and under what conditions they should be operating. Because
let me quote him for you.
Yes,
We
please.
made a campaign promise that we were going to regularize the use of motorcycles for commercial purposes. It's starting today.
Right.
We are going to see what we will do to implement a revision of the law
Okay.
to allow them to operate commercially. This is also to ensure that we reduce the congestion on our roads. Very soon, you will see a rollout of whatever we intend to do to get the Okada business license for them to operate freely.
Okay.
He has said it now. He's also meeting transport unions over fare hikes amid rising fuel prices. Story on City Newsroom by Ni Aikoe Okain. The government is set to engage a high-level discussion with transport unions today, February 11, regarding their plans to increase transport fares in response to persistent fuel price increases. This engagement comes in the wake of growing concerns among commuters and transport operators about the economic burden of fluctuating fuel costs and its impact on transportation services across the country. Now, we are told that the latest development follows a statement issued by GPRTU, one of the largest unions in the country, indicating that the threshold for fare adjustments had been met due to consecutive fuel price increases recorded throughout the month of January.
Bernard, among the people who have died in a Futu of cholera are 2 children. So 2 children have died as a result of cholera outbreaks in the Futu municipality central region, with their remains being kept at the morgue for post-mortem examination. A total of 365 cases are also suspected, with 29 confirmed cases. 15 patients are currently on admission at the Winneba Municipal Hospital, with 10 in critical condition. Dr. Douglas Amponsa, acting medical superintendent of the Winneba Municipal Hospital, provided the figures above, noting most of the cases were being recorded in the fishing communities along the coast, with most of the victims being children and pregnant women. Very worrying numbers.
I had a
here.
report yesterday, and
Yeah.
we're told that open defecation on our beaches
goodness.
is contributing seriously to this. And I think the people of Efutu, the health service there needs to raise its public education work.
Yeah.
I even think that the minority leader, who's the MP for Efutu,
Yeah.
should embark on a public relations and public health campaign
Yeah.
to discontinue open defecation, among other things, because this cholera in 2025, indeed, why should people be doing open defecation in 2025?
It's unacceptable.
You know, now
It's
let me
not
take another
acceptable.
story from you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I jump international.
Yes, Bernard, the sad state of the Kwame Nkrumah interchange is a feature here. Innocent Samuel Appiah. As a people, we really know how to destroy everything that we could cherish.
What is happening?
Otherwise, how could we allow the Kwame Nkrumah interchange, which should have been a national monument of pride, to become a den of social misfits from all parts of the world? When the interchange was completed, it was meant to be a symbol of modern urban development in Accra. Unfortunately, like everything that we have not taken good care of, it has become an alarming illustration of the capital's growing social crisis, with foreign nationals, homeless individuals, and various groups turning the facility into an informal settlement, and which can be described as a slum. Yesterday we saw photos. You know, there were heaps of refuse under the interchange here and there. The greenery is gone. People are...
It's a big problem. Now,
yeah.
I want to take you back to this quite quickly. Video of JB Dankwa Edu condemns
Yeah.
Parliament silence on a husband's murder. Story is on Channel One
years?
News by Julian Odamio Asari. Says, Ivy Heard Mills, widow of former MP for Ebuakwa North Joseph Boachi Dankwa Edu, has called out Parliament for its seeming silence on her husband's unsolved murder 9 years after his killing at his residence in Shashi. In a Facebook post on Monday, February 10, she queried the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, Majority Leader Ayariga, Minority Leader Alexander Fenyo Marking, and all MPs on their silence on the matter. She compared the swift justice served in the 2016 murder case of British MP Joe Cox in the UK, where the killer was arrested, prosecuted, and sentenced within 5 months, to the tardy progress in her husband's case. So, in another push, she honored her husband's memory as a principled legislator, devoted father, and patriot, but criticized Parliament's seeming indifference to her husband's tragic demise. And it's been 9 years and 1 day since he was brutally murdered as a sitting MP. Parliament has carried on as if life has been inconsequential. I dare say his life was not inconsequential, and what happened to him could have happened to any. The other post read, and I think her post is well in order. Let me end with a troubling one from Burkina Faso. BBC is reporting through Ed Butler from Tamale that 3 Ghanaians have told the BBC of their involvement in the fighting between Islamist insurgents and the military in neighboring Burkina Faso, describing scenes of sometimes indiscriminate violence and bloody battles. We are always with the dead in some battles. I have seen 40, 50, or 100 people dead. One of the men told the BBC. The three, all in their late 40s, late 30s or early 40s, said they had fought in Burkina Faso multiple times since 2018.
Oh, Charlie.
They crossed the porous 550-kilometer border between the two countries without being detected by the security forces. They denied being primarily motivated by religion or being trained by the jihadists, saying they went to fight to defend civilian communities with whom they had strong family and ethnic ties. But another of the men did articulate religious zeal, saying if you die while fighting with the jihadists, then you are driving to Jannah on the path of the righteous.
My goodness.
This is very troubling. Hopefully, the Ghanaian authorities are paying attention to these stories and acting quickly to avoid a spillover.
Bimbilla SHS students are struggling amid severe water crisis. I know the water company has been doing some work, but they should pay attention to Bimbilla SHS.
That's all we have time for. Coming up next is the City Business News.
The City Breakfast Show. Rise above the noise.
It's magical.